Hello and welcome back to Talk Tonight. Well, like I said, welcome back. It is episode number 6 of Talk Tonight. We'd like to say thank you, as I do everyone at the start of a podcast, to say thank you to everyone, to encourage, has given me the confidence to improve my reading and my writing, which has been life-changing. So thank you for everyone who's been on Spotify, on Apple, and on YouTube. It's been on YouTube as well. So yeah, we're on pretty much like everyone on TikTok as well. TikTok?
You said it right.
Yeah, TikTok. Yeah.
TikTok.
So like we're on TikTok as well. So I'm super excited to introduce a very special guest, my wife, Cara.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Hello, everyone. So yeah, she's my special guest, and Cara. We teach. We touched our life together back in episode 1. So I spoke a lot about Cara in episode 1. So you can go back on episode 1 and sort of like find out more information about obviously my life, and obviously how we introduced Cara. I was first in a boxing gym. When I punched Cara, no, she punched me in the face.
No, somebody punched me in the face.
She punched you in the face. So yeah, Cara's with me now. So our story is pretty interesting. We all met each other, like I say, 10 years ago, at a boxing gym in Coventry, and the first thing I said to Cara was, how many fingers are you holding off? Is that right?
How many fingers am I holding up?
Why? What happened?
I'd just been punched in the face and it was my first time sparring and I was seeing stars. So
What do you mean stars?
I was seeing stars.
You're seeing stars because someone punched you in the face?
Someone buzzed me, basically. I really wasn't expecting it. I don't know what I expected when I signed up to box, but it wasn't for some reason being punched in the face.
Okay, so like Cara was punched in the face by someone, and the first thing I said to Cara was, how many fingers are you holding off? So yeah, that's like I say, you can go through episode 1 and find out more information about boxing and all the rest of it. So it's very sort of like interesting. Like I say, Cara's life is nothing short of extraordinary, really. Big, massive family in Coventry. So yeah, go with it. Talk to me about your early life in Coventry.
Yeah, so I'm one of 8 children. They're all half brothers and sisters. So I'm the youngest of 8, the eldest being 13 years older than me, and the one closest to my age is 5 years older than me. My dad actually had a vasectomy after the one closest to me in age, and him and my mum didn't want any more children when they met because they said 7 was probably enough. And then I was a bit of a surprise, and the vasectomy clearly didn't work. So yeah, that's where we started, and always a very busy household. I was always at the bottom of a pile of kids because there was no internet, not really any TV for us to watch. So our Sunday afternoons used to be spent basically battering each other. That was the entertainment. We'd pretend to wrestle, and I'd always be on the bottom of the pile.
Okay. So you're the bottom of the pile?
Always at the bottom. My mum was always screaming, pull her out.
She had a vasectomy?
My dad had
Your dad had a vasectomy?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they found out that it was you?
Yeah, mum was carrying me. So
okay. So yeah, like I say, so living in a big family, you were the youngest?
Yeah, I was the baby.
Okay, you were the baby. So like, do you think that you were the most favourite?
I don't think I'm allowed to say that.
Yes, you are.
I think when it's the youngest, there's always sort of some favouritism, isn't there? Because as we know, it's really hard with a blended family anyway, when you've got kids coming and going, as we have here.
Yeah.
And then, you learn a lot once you've had your first kids, and you learn to be a bit more patient with the younger ones. So they probably do have it a bit easier, don't they?
Okay, yeah.
Do you think our kids, the younger ones, get it easier than the older ones?
Yeah, I think so. I think like with Ivor, he's obviously our youngest. Well, he's my youngest. And again, he wasn't from a vasectomy, but he is obviously the youngest of our blended family. And yeah, it is hard at times. To be from a blended family. We like I say, our blended family is very tough at times, and to go through those sort of like those situations with you can see our children, they batter each other already. We've already seen some battering and
Yes.
some sort of like some lots of fights and arguments and all the rest of it. But we do love everyone, and I guess like your mum and dad were the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they like get married and then like get divorced and then got like remarried.
Yeah. I think they just like wedding cake.
Just like cake, just like you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was obviously like your early life, and like I say, that was like I say you being the youngest, and then over a period of time, you obviously had your brother was Andrew,
hmm
and Andrew, I guess, was the second youngest. I guess.
Yeah. So I've got two brothers that were born very close to each other because one's my dad's and one's my mum's, so they were the same sort of age. So there's Andrew and Spencer that were both closest to my age, being 5 years older than me.
Okay, so let's talk about Andrew then. I know this might be difficult to talk about, um, but obviously, if we were to talk about Andrew, your brother, he's had a tragic situation, and hate to work the word of Andrew was murdered. And to talk about that is quite tough and quite hard to talk about. So if you want to talk about what happened to Andrew, we can talk about the real situations of what actually happened, but let's talk about Andrew's like lifestyle and that sort of stuff, if that's okay to talk about.
Yeah, I think obviously we were the last two left at home, me and Andrew. So we were close when we were younger. I think, as happens with a lot of families, as you grow up and you've got your own families, you may be not so close anymore. And I moved away from Coventry when I was 17, and I moved back at about 24. So I was away from Coventry for a while, and really grew apart from most of the family, I'd say, apart from my parents and grandparents, who I've always remained close to. Um, and Andrew, unfortunately, the sort of people he mixed with led to his murder, I'd say, and just a very silly decision on behalf of all of them. Really, it was over a really minute debt. I think it was over something like £400 that Andrew was owed, and he went knocking on someone's door for it. And within less than a minute, I think it was 53 seconds after that, he'd been run over by a car and left dead in the street. He was taken into a university hospital, and essentially he was already dead when he got there. He was obviously kept alive on ventilators and stuff, and I think it was 2 or 3 days, I think it was 2 days later, then he was pronounced dead at the hospital. So yeah, you just think, like I say, less than a minute of him just walking up the street, and then these people got in the car, got tooled up. They've obviously gone to give him a beating, and instead they've run him over, and that killed him. It killed his dog, Zippy. Zippy. I think it's Zippy. Killed, ran over his friend, and also two of my nephews were with him, who are obviously they're physically okay, but obviously mentally, that's a really traumatic thing to be witness to.
Yeah.
So
Didn't one of the other lads that got sort of like were they be was it the other lad who ended up passing away? What happened to him? Because obviously, like Andrew was hit by a car,
yeah,
and what was the other lad that was involved?
yeah. I suppose I don't want to talk about him too much
Yeah.
because obviously he's not my family, he's somebody else's, and it's quite recent that Damo, Andrew's friend, has passed away as well. So he was also hit by the car, went through a lot of surgeries and stuff, and yeah, subsequently has now passed away as well.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I say, it's quite hard to talk about it, but let's talk about like the serious issues, right? So, Andrew was struck by a car on Gravenall Road in Coventry on the 2nd of July last year, and sadly passed away 3 days later from head injuries. Right. So these guys, I'm going to be like quite, straight down the line with these guys. Ashley Donald was the driver. He was sentenced for life in prison um, with a minimum of 23 years. Right. This is how serious it is, and this is what happened. Right. The three others: Samuel Heronsbury, Carl Tomlinson, Carol A, received sentences for manslaughter. Right. So that's how pretty serious the situation was. And to be like pretty straight down the line, when these people made decisions, they got in that car and they did exactly what they should have done. They knew what they were going to do. The other lad, he moved to Ireland, didn't he? They moved across to Ireland.
Yeah, the driver fled the country. So I think this has been like what happened with Andrew was awful, and it's really difficult when people say how many brothers and sisters have you got, for example. It's really difficult to say because I don't want to leave Andrew out, but I also it's very shocking when you tell somebody that somebody's been murdered. Like if you say, "Oh, they've passed away," it's much easier, but that's not what happened to him. Um, and what's made it more difficult, I think, is obviously there was a long period of time before we could have a funeral. So Andrew passed away 2 years ago, July. We couldn't have the funeral till the October. And then the following year, we've had the court case going on, and there's been all sorts of other things going on since sentencing. So it's just like he can't just rest. It's like the trauma keeps getting brought up and brought up and brought up. So you can't sort of try and heal from it and say goodbye to him when it's still being brought up all the time.
Yeah, but it's like I say, it's your mum. She does think about it a lot, and it's trauma for the whole family, in a different way. I know, like some of your family, they kind of like they want to talk about it a lot, whereas I guess your mum, she deals with it in very different ways, where she gets very angry, and it's okay to feel like that way. I think that anxiety for your mum, especially to lose a child before before your own pass away. You look at like your granddad, like he's he's 97,
96. He'll be
and like he's had a really great life, and then everyone is sort of like in your family is in a lot of ways that, like, even though it's like mixed family, yeah, it's like to everyone to feel that way, everyone is going to deal with it in different ways.
Yeah, I think with grief there's no right or wrong.
No.
So obviously for me, and I know you'll touch on it, but Andrew passed away in the July. We went on a family holiday with all 4 kids. We took them all to Spain, which was pre-booked at the end of July, beginning of August. And that was a stress sandwich because for some reason we decided we weren't going to allow them to have devices so they'd enjoy the holiday. Terrible idea. But we went away, and then once we came back in the September, you had your stroke type episode.
Yeah.
So really, I did not deal with it at all because I didn't have time to deal with it, because I also had to deal with what was going on with your illness and with the children and with the business. And so it's only really, I'd say, last year that I started trying to process it. I think before that, I just bottled it up and kept myself as busy as possible so I didn't have to think about it. about any of it, because it's not just like I say, me and Andrew weren't massively close. I didn't see him all the time, but he was still my brother. It was still traumatic. But then also to have your diagnosis going on and you being really ill, and to have the kids to look after, it was just like, well, there's no time for a mental breakdown, so you better just keep busy. Because everybody needs you, and what's going to happen to the family, to our family, if I can't keep going? So like there just was not that option. So I think it's only been the last year or so it's felt safe for me to be able to process it a bit and feel that emotion and try and come through the other side.
It's been like say when I had my diagnosis, well, obviously the stroke type episode in September, so that family holiday was like say it was like July, and then I went on a stag in
September.
September, and then like literally I had the stroke type episode just after my 26th of September 2022, and that's what happened then. So like Cara was trying to deal with like his brother being murdered, and then like she's having to deal with me having a stroke type episode, and then obviously being diagnosed with mitochondrial disease, which again has been like really tough for you to sort of like to deal with me. And then obviously the kids then I know like Violet, don't want to talk too much about that one, but Violet has got autism, but not like at a serious situation. But that was another one that sort of like came down the...
Yeah, she was diagnosed in the last 2 years as well. And that was, although I think we always knew that Violet's different and sees the world differently. It was quite upsetting to get a diagnosis of autism, because it was as if they were saying something was wrong with her. And I'm like, well, that's just who Violet is. But like, and some of the things they said about her being very black and white and liking to stick to a routine and, liking things to be on her time, I was like, is that not just normal? Because she gets that from me. So
so like I say over the last 2 years, that's what we've had, like, is just back and forth with like, serious issues, me not being able to walk, to initially to not being able to drive, not being able to walk. I'd lost like my eyesight at one point, didn't I? And I couldn't tell you my name. Like my date of birth, I had MRIs. I'm still gonna go like today with something like for my diabetes, and then Cara's got to take me to every single hospital. I think like this year already in 2025, like I've already had like 2 hospital meetings.
Yeah, and we've got another one next month, and then they'll just keep coming.
They just keep coming, So like, so Cara's having to deal with this whole situation. So I don't know why you're with me.
Well, in between that time, we also got married, didn't we? Which they say like is one of the most stressful things to do. So I think in the last like 2-3 years, we've had everything possible thrown at us, because I remember
because we were due to get married.
Yeah, it was booked anyway, wasn't it?
We booked everything, so like we so we decided to go ahead with our wedding, and it went really well. There was no real sort of like I struggled a little bit with my
when you did your speech. You
weren't
when I
did my speech, I did struggle. I wanted to be a bit better than what I did with it. I always feel a little bit bad about that one. But
you can just have a vow renewal. You can do it again. I'm up for another wedding.
I did my vows well.
You did.
I did my vows well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I was pretty tired by that sort of like point of the evening and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that went well. But again, it was another thing that we had to deal with over the last 2 years, coming up to 3 years now. So yeah, I guess like how do you take every year sort of like your day by day? So what you talk about your business?
Yeah, so been self-employed for a long time since I had Violet, my youngest. I was on my own. It was apparent that with 2 kids under 2, going back to work in the jewellery quarter really wasn't an option. Childcare fees, I just couldn't do it. So we started working together on the boxing shows, and then 5 years ago, just before the world shut down for COVID, we had all these black tablecloths from the boxing shows, and I was like, you know what? We should hire these out, and we should hire chair covers out. And I'm not going to do weddings at all. I'm just going to do parties, and that's what I'm going to do. And then a week later, COVID happened, which in a way was quite good because I started getting inquiries for weddings, but they were really small.
Yeah.
So what I've found since then, I've rebranded the business. We focus on weddings. We've got a separate business for corporate events. But really, what was most difficult for me, I think, about you getting ill was you were the spokesperson. So I'm actually quite shy. Not that Robbie would tell you that, but so public speaking, no way. I'll do everything else behind the scenes and Robbie would do all the speaking. But when this happened and Robbie couldn't talk, I not only had to learn to talk for myself, but I had to speak for him too.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing in respect of that is, with the business, now it has to provide for the family. So I've had to get really bolshy. It's really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I've had to do stuff that if you'd have been well, I just wouldn't have done because I wouldn't have had to do it, or you'd have done it for me. Robbie always used to tell me off because I wouldn't answer the phone. I'm like, no, if they can email me, I'm not answering the phone. So it has, in that respect, it's been good for me.
Yeah.
But I'd still rather it hadn't have happened, to be honest. I'd rather have you as my spokesperson instead.
Yeah. Like I say, obviously we're doing the podcast and that sort of stuff. Has been like really, it's been good for me because obviously get my conversation and my speech working better and my reading and writing better than it was. For sure, like, much better. But sometimes like my fatigue like sort of like sets me down.
Mm-hmm.
And then like to have like a basic conversation. I like to have a conversation with Cara sort of like in the evening, and then she wants to go in the bath. And
I get up early, I go to bed early, and Robbie's like the complete opposite. He gets up late, goes to bed late. So we've got like this very narrow window of time because by 7 o'clock I'm tired.
Yeah.
But you're just sort of waking up then, aren't you?
Yeah, so like I'm normally getting up around about 10 a.m. unless I've got Ivor. And then obviously I'll get up like early at 7 o'clock to sort of like to get up with Ivor because otherwise he's bouncing around in the place. But yeah, like weekends now obviously like is football for Violet as well. So I'm trying to come watch the football as well, sort of like to keep me busy. We've obviously shut the gym down, which has been like, it was our baby really.
Mm-hmm. It was really tough, wasn't it?
For 5-6 years. And then to close the gym has been like I think it's been pretty difficult for both of us.
Yeah.
In a way. Because again, like now it's really strange, like on 6 o'clock, or I always used to be at the gym by like 5 p.m. And now, since January, because obviously we've moved the gym out, I still think that I'm going to need to get up on a Monday and Tuesday to take my class on.
Yeah.
I still feel it. Like, I'm like, I need to be there for 5 o'clock to go to the gym. And now we don't go.
Yeah.
I think it's something we didn't stop doing together.
Yeah. I've got to say, it was the right decision for us, although it was difficult. And I can see the difference in your energy level throughout the week now, because you'd do Monday, Tuesday, and then you'd be so exhausted from it, it would knock on into the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And then it was hard for you to do anything else. Whereas now, because you're not going out those nights, you've got more energy to put into other things. And it's the same for me, because obviously I'm running Cara Mia, the business. So very often at the weekends I'm working, and in the week I'm doing all the admin and stuff that I need to do to keep the business running. And it would just be, I'd get home, we'd pick up the kids, get them dinner, and we'd be going out again. And I was just so exhausted that
I think you're more happy since the gym went down.
It's just one less thing to try and juggle. I think we've got so much on our plate with the mito. It takes up a lot of energy, doesn't it? Anyway, and like you say, all the appointments we have to go to, juggling 4 kids, juggling the business, trying to make sure we've got enough money coming in.
Yeah.
You know, if the sad fact is, when you run a boxing gym, they don't make money.
No.
We did it because we loved it.
Yeah, well, it was like 10 years.
Yeah, it's been like that. It's never really made money, has it? It's always we've subsidised it, and that was fine when we were both working, and we could subsidise it. But it just got to it was a very expensive hobby now that we can't afford.
Yeah, it was like I say, it was a hard decision to make, but I think obviously through my diagnosis and that sort of stuff, I had to make a decision at that particular point and go, right, okay, well, actually. I might be able to get back out to a gym and just go and do something to get on a bus, or
you might be able to train for yourself.
I know I need to get out more. I know that's a fact.
I think it's been really difficult for you though, because obviously when the stroke type episode happened, you went from one day being, I know you were having problems with your vision, but from one day being fine, you were at work, you were able to do everything, and then all of a sudden overnight, you lost half your vision, you had aphasia, so you couldn't speak properly, you couldn't read, you couldn't write.
A seizure.
So you went from being fine to being really poorly, and it was such a massive shock for you that it's taken a while to try and build back up again. And I know sometimes you only see what you can't do.
Yeah.
But you can, like, you put a video on the other day of you speaking.
Yeah.
And you can just, the difference is so much, you can't believe it. And like I said, I remember being out one night and saying to you, because I used to have to voice note you because you couldn't read them. And I said, I'll go to the chip shop. What do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell me. And you said, I want the thing. I want onion. So I was like, oh, pickled onion. Okay. And you're like, no. Okay. Onion rings. No. And I was like, what is it that he wants? And I was thinking and thinking.
I had to write a piece of paper.
I was like, a kebab. Yes. And it was so difficult for both of us because I was trying to decipher what you wanted, but it was really frustrating for you not just being able to tell me.
Yeah. I know, so, I've got this piece of paper that I had, and I still got it. It's got the same book, and it got all the information and things that I was trying to say everyone's names. I couldn't tell Violet's name. I couldn't name Scarlett's name. I couldn't name Ivor's name. I couldn't name Jack's name, anything like that. And to read that stuff, and then I had to do it every day. Write down the same thing, write down the same thing, write down the same thing. And how I was so angry at the hospitals and the it's not the DVLA, it's the
NHS.
The NHS, how the NHS dealt with us, especially because I think they were coming out of COVID as well at around about the same time. They just had no idea what was going on with me. And it was only Dr. Rogan, who sort of came in with me and sort of said, this guy might be dealing with mitochondrial disease. We need to do a proper blood test. And then the blood test came. We didn't wait until January of 2023 to go, right, okay, well, he's got this diagnosis of mitochondrial disease. And we still don't know all of the information really about mitochondrial because it doesn't seem to have any idea. It does to a certain perspective, but
it's just that it's so varied for everybody, isn't it? That it's rare and people have such different things with it that they can't give you a proper prognosis. So the one thing that they do say is always prevalent is this debilitating fatigue.
Yeah.
Which most people with mito get. But
yeah,
I mean, I know,
and seizures and that sort of stuff. But I've not had any seizures since 2023 May. Yeah, and that was because I had a situation in Barcelona, but we won't talk about that. I think we spoke about it anyway in episode 1. So if anyone wants to find out information of that one, we can talk about Barcelona and how that sort of figured out for me and my mates. So they'd probably be able to. They are listening on the podcast
That
as well.
was the shortest holiday I've ever had that I wasn't invited on.
You were invited.
No. Well, I was then. I literally got on a plane, picked you up, and got back on another plane.
Yeah, I know. But this is sort of stuff that Cara has done for me. Is like anything that I ask for, Cara does for me, and like I do appreciate you for everything that you do for me, because like sometimes we don't always sort of like our heads bank a little bit, sort of like quite a lot of times. But it's only because we care, and we've got a really good, strong relationship where if there is something that needs to be dealt with, we will deal with it. But it is quite tough at times.
I think it's harder for you. I think, like you say, you now that you're better, well, much better than what you were. It's important for you to sort of have other people other than me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to be able to get out a bit more. And the thing was, like I say, because you were so ill, you had to rely on me because you couldn't understand what people were saying to you. It's made a massive difference getting the hearing aids as well.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't hear people. Yeah, you couldn't hear people, and then people were wearing masks. So it would always be somebody would ask Robbie a question, Robbie would look at me, I'd repeat the question, he'd answer it.
Yeah, so I've got to do one later.
And now he says that I shout because he's got the hearing aids in. Why are you shouting? I'm like, well, for the last 10 years, I've had to speak quite loudly so you could understand me and hear me. And I've just got used to speaking that way with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think you had to be so dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
But now you don't, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's important for both of us to have our own things as well, isn't it? Like I go out to work, and it's difficult for you because your friends aren't all here, are they? You haven't got a big social group here.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you need to get a Coventry season ticket and start going with the boys.
It's not about
go support Coventry.
Yeah, I think I need to get out and about, but again, it's like paying for things, and that sort of stuff. It's pretty expensive. But yeah, I need to get out and speak to people more. And that's what the podcast is all about as well. We are available. I'm available to talk about anyone really who wants to sort of have a basic conversation. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to talk about?
I suppose what I was just going to say then was, excuse me, I always said about you before we were in a relationship, and Robbie was my coach and we were friends before. Mm-hmm. And I used to go to my PT session and it'd absolutely beast me. And all the lads would go and they'd spend half of the time talking. And I was like, are you an agony aunt or are you a PT?
Yeah.
But it was you've always been very caring and wanted to help people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I missed that part of the gym situation because it was my opportunity to speak. A lot of people would just speak to me. I'd have 40 minutes of, say, getting beast out, and that sort of stuff on a personal training situation. And I was always good at it. And most people would, for about 30 minutes, they just chat to me. It's just happy days. I saw pads for 10 minutes. And 30 minutes was just chat.
No, that's a lie.
Yeah, it's not that close, but yeah. Talk tonight is about trying to help everyone. We've put together the group. Cara's helped me put together a group, and like I say, doing the podcast, Cara will probably have to write. We'll have to edit it. Have to edit all of this anyway. So it's been just to get the lighting and that sort of stuff set up is a bit of a pain. But yeah, just want to get out information as much as we possibly can. On the list of this one, there is a load of lists about things like mental health issues, anxiety, after murder. There's sort of different. I've got a list. I've put together
of some links.
Yeah, some links out after this that go okay, well, like Samaritans, Andy's
Man Club.
Andy's Man Club. That's obviously like a lot of those guys deal through anything through anxiety, suicide, that sort of stuff. So like, yeah, we've got like a massive list that I'll put straight after this podcast and go like, okay, this is what we got as information and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think we've just got to also give a little shout out to the Lily Foundation.
Yes.
Who are the mitochondrial charity that have helped us. Because one of the things they've helped us with is they've given us counselling, haven't they?
Yes.
So we've been able to, we have it together. I had some separately and now we have it together. And it's really helpful just to have somebody to speak through things with.
Yes.
Because sometimes you're too close to a thing, and so that sort of thing can be really helpful if you can get counselling. There's no shame in it.
No.
And it can be really helpful if you're open to it.
Yeah, I think counselling, I know that I've had with Dee, who's my hypnotherapist. I first met Dee like, again, I was like 2023. And I thought that Dee would be able to sort of go 1, 2, 3, speak, but I couldn't do it. And Dee was my first person that listened. She listened to both of us, but Dee listened to me and understood what I was going through, and she improved me like massively in my speech. 100% that Dee did that, and again, I spoke about this in episode 1. Things like hypnotherapy is good. Like any therapy, any good, like you just spoke to there.
Yeah, about the counselling.
About counselling and that sort of stuff. Don't feel like you can't. Like, please don't feel like you can't, because there is help out there for you. And that's what Talk Tonight is all about as well. It's all about like meeting other people and just talking nonsense. If you just want to talk nonsense, we can talk about nonsense. But like, anyone's got like problems, and like Talk Tonight is all about that. It's all about like just linking,
just having some support,
and
knowing that you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. No one's alone. Cara's been my rock, and I'm very lucky to have her. So we're just going to finish at that, and say thank you to everyone again on Talk Tonight. Again, without you guys, without listening, and I know that like there's not many people right now, but I hope that more and more people will join. And yeah, I'll see you on the next podcast.